But oh, you beauty! What a head, son! What
a head! Hi.
dear.
Welcome back to Onto the Ball. Jesus wept. Jesus H. Christ.
Set yourselves up, boys. You knew it was coming, didn't you? That's the thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, God knows where OB has gone. Let's hope he's not in any physical or mental danger.
He's on the milk carton, mate. He'll be here.
Travis. I'm not sure what's happening with your camera, but it keeps flashing black just for a second and then comes back.
I'm not sure. Is it okay now?
Yeah, I just have to watch it. It'll flash once a minute for dead black.
Oh yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, 1 second.
Oh, what can I say? Last week we are absolutely flying. Absolutely
flashing. Sorry, mate.
flying.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Beat Manchester United 7-0, 5 clean sheets in a row, and that feeling that we are back. And then this happens, and this is typical Liverpool. We spoke in the pre-match preview on Thursday night about consistency and what Liverpool need to do to demonstrate this consistency, and what Bournemouth done to Arsenal, and what unlucky not to get a result.
I don't know what's up with my camera. Sorry, Scotty, to cut you 1 second, mate.
Yeah, no worries, mate. And then here we are. 4 people watching straight in, and I think my man Dan from Two Blues is one of them. Hi, Dan. Ha, 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 ha. Nice one. Good afternoon, boys. Afternoon, Dan. Dan, what is wrong with our 2 rubbish clubs? I don't want to bring Chelsea into it, but I've given up my Leicester-Chelsea ticket today because my little girl has got a party. So I ended up giving it to my Chelsea mate. Big up, Chris Power.
Still doing it. I'm sorry, mate. I'm really sorry.
No, you're right, mate.
1 second,
and,
mate.
Have you got it on Do Not Disturb or anything, Trav?
Nah.
Yeah, do that. Do Not Disturb. That might be you getting a text through or something.
Right, okay.
So yeah, unfortunately, I'm missing the Leicester-Chelsea game. It would have been a good one, but on the upside or the downside now, with hindsight, it allowed me to watch all of the Liverpool game. We were not getting back into that game. The more the game went on, here's OB. Oh, he's going to be fuming. He's going to be absolutely fuming. He's smiling, but is it a smile or is it a grimace?
It's a grimace, mate. Jesus. Well, afternoon, everybody. Hope you're well. How are you doing, Trav? How are you doing, Scott?
Good afternoon. Right? Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Still doing it. I don't know what's up with it, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
Is Trav having technical problems? That's it. We'll just quit.
Yeah, should we just knock
I
it
don't
on
know
the
what's up with my camera. I really don't know what's wrong with it.
We can see you all right, mate. So it's
don't worry. It's once every 20 seconons it goes black for a nanosecond. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. All right,
The main thing is that we can hear you. Unfortunately for me and OB, because I don't think this is going to be pretty listening, to be honest. Before we get started, let's dive into the comments. I've got Dan still in the comments. Someone put in my group chat how slow Liverpool were, and the lack of urgency does remind me of Chelsea, to be fair. Yeah, it was absolutely honking. And I mean honking. The first 10 minutes we were decent. We thought, here we go. This is a bolt on from the Liverpool-Man United game. But after the first 10 minutes, when that keeper made that save from Andy Robertson, it was a quality save. I thought I straight away went on a flash score and say, who is this keeper? Neto from Barcelona. I've never heard of him. I don't know if you boys have, but top quality, 33 years old, straight into the captain's armband as well, which I thought was an odd one, which was the main reason I was doing a bit of research on who he is. But after that first 10 minutes, we were absolutely honking to a man. The first half, we could have been 2 goals down. Virgil van Dijk. That isn't Virgil van Dijk. I don't know what he was doing for that goal. He done the hard part, which was get goal side of Utara, and then he stopped and give him a nanosecond to just glide past him. He left him for dead. That was absolutely awful. And I know we've give Virgil a bit of stick the last couple of weeks, and Virgil even himself has come out and said, look, my body was broken after that ACL, coming straight back in, playing a full season with no break, then the World Cup. But I don't want to overreact, but he looked broken today. Obi, what happened with that first goal?
I thought he looked better in the second half, Scott. It looked like he regained a bit of composure. He looked like he was more in control of what was going on around him. But to your point, I mean, there was sort of a 5-10 minute period before the goal, and then a little bit afterwards where the whole defence just seemed to be really hesitant. And I don't know. It was just like it was a relatively short period of the game where the defence was out of control, but it was all that mattered. And ultimately, I mean, got the first goal, and all that confidence that we seemed to have up till that sort of point just drained. It was like everybody was chatting at each other. They looked like the same people were going for the two different people were going for the same ball. I thought that the midfield just didn't look as if it was very well balanced, and I don't know why that was. There was a lot of diagonal balls that weren't really going to get in behind. That's a tight little ground. Need to be playing quicker football than what we were, and we were sort of hanging around, making little safe passes, and then try to hit diagonal balls in behind them, and they were ready for it. And to be fair, Bournemouth, they set up in a very sort of defensive format, but they set up for a clear counter-attack, and it was obvious what they were going to do. We talked about it on Thursday. Nobody expected Bournemouth to do anything else other than set up with two good solid banks, lack of space in between, not allow us to get in behind them, but not allow us to any space in front of their back, their defenders. And we just fell for it. We didn't stretch the game. We didn't try to move the ball quickly. We didn't move in between the lines quick enough. We didn't link up with any sort of urgency at points. And it's just frustrating to watch, mate. It really was. And I mean, the penalty, the whole thing just frustrated me. So there's a couple of things to that. We'll get on to Salah last of all, because he's the most culpable of everybody here. Jota's header was going in. How the referee doesn't give that on the pitch is beyond me, because it was obvious as well, and that frustrated me. And then all of that wait, obviously, for the decision. I mean, the Liverpool players knew it was a penalty straight away because they're all round him, and they knew it was a penalty. And then Salah going down and trying to be a smart arse rather than the keeper went early the wrong way. Just side foot it in. You don't need to put it in the top corner. What is the need to do that? The keeper went early.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's really, really frustrating to see, because it was almost like, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, it's very difficult to criticise Mohamed Salah for anything. But when the keeper goes, just slow your run down and just tap it. You know what I mean? And mate.
I think the most frustrating thing was that I was talking to my mate Woody on the group chat, and I said, because he said, I'm not watching the game, so I was giving him a few updates, and I said, Salah's taking it and Milner's on the pitch. And then when he missed it, you said to your boys, you called it, and Dunny said he called it. Everyone was calling it. Milner's on the pitch. And Salah isn't a great penalty taker. I always point back to the penalty in the European Cup final against Spurs.
Yeah.
Isn't Milner your penalty taker?
Well, he is, but he doesn't really get a game anymore. So it is a little bit different now. But when you're losing 1-0 with 20 minutes to go away from home and Milner's on the pitch, I don't know if it was a bit of I don't know if it was a bit of selfishness from Salah wanting a goal to build on his 2 last week against Man United, or he is the penalty taker outright now. But all of us doubted him, and I couldn't believe it.
Apparently, he hasn't missed one since 2021, and he has taken a few penalties. What I would say is that he does miss them occasionally, and that does happen. Whereas, when did Milner last miss a penalty?
I can't remember him missing one ever.
And it's like Fabinho's a good penalty taker as well. You know what I mean? And there's people who can take penalties, and we just haven't Oh, I don't know. It's hard to criticize because if it goes in, we don't even have that conversation, do we? But ultimately, it hasn't happened, and it was just frustrating because Jota's header was going in. It was quite clear it was going in as well.
It is frustrating, definitely.
Oh, it's just annoying. It's annoying,
But
but ultimately, I thought Bournemouth done well enough. That goalkeeper, did he used to play for Valencia as well, Scott?
Barcelona and Valencia, yeah.
Yeah, I think
and Fiorentina.
Yeah, he's a good keeper. He is. So he looked good today, and he made a few really, really important saves. I mean, the one from Jota cannot be underestimated, but he saw where Jota was going to go and actually got over there and made it look like a simple save. But that was a decent shot. Yeah, that was a decent shot, and he read it, and I think that was massive. I thought Billing was really, really good at points in the game. He caused us a lot of problems. I thought the whole team worked really, really hard, and fair play to Bournemouth. They were good for the victory ultimately, considering where they were, considering what happened to them last week. They're clearly a decent team, and it'll be interesting to see how they progress for the rest of the season, because there's no way that they should be in and around that relegation zone. And the performances we've seen the last 2 weeks, I think they've been really, really unlucky.
We say that about all the teams, though, don't we, Obi? All them teams down the bottom, we make them look like Brazil, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth. Yeah. I'm just going to jump in the comments. Dalaval's with us. He's saying, "Can I come on?" He wants to let out the anger. I'll definitely have you on soon, Dalaval, but I don't even know how to send the link when I'm live like this. Apologies, brother, but thanks for tuning in, and let us know in the comments what you're most angry about. I think it'll mirror exactly what we're saying. Get your anger out in the comments, bro. Yeah, nice one. Cheers, Dan. But this Utara, Dango Utara, I mean, he's got pace to burn, but he absolutely ripped us apart for pretty much the whole game. But we were waxing lyrical about, if you've got a functioning industrious midfield, it makes the front three look better and it makes the defense look better. And again, that is where we fell short for me today, Trav. It was like men against boys in there, and it literally was, having Bajcetic and Elliot in there. Elliot bounced off one of the players at one point, one of these big, strong midfielders, like an empty tracksuit. And I thought that's indicative of how this game is going so far. I didn't think he deserved to be hauled off at half-time. I thought, I mentioned it to OB, I'd probably have took Bajcetic off. But they just done a number on us. They look big, strong, men against boys. And I'm sure we're going to get onto the front three soon, especially Salah. But the midfield is where we lost it for me. Is that the way you've seen it?
Yeah, I think sometimes, like you said, in terms of him being hauled off at half time, it can seem like it comes across harsh. But I think when you physically, when you're not matching the opposition, sometimes you just have to make a change. It's not necessarily about how they're playing, or it's nothing against the individual. Sometimes you have to make a change to sort of get yourself back into the game. I just felt throughout the game, Liverpool, they huffed and puffed like they were going to get going, but they never really got their rhythm going. They never really sort of got the fluidity in the game that they showed against Manchester United going. And you two called it, really. I think, like you said, it was going to be a tricky tie down at the Vitality, and they made it tough. And like you said, in this league, with 12 games to go, anyone in and around the bottom 7, you just don't want to be playing them, mate. Especially away from home. It's just disgusting. It really is. Early kickoff as well. That's the worst thing. Getting up, having to play early down at Bournemouth is just a potential banana skin, and it proved to be that today. I think Liverpool, like, he had some good moments in the game, and like you said, the keeper made some important saves, but I don't think Nunes really got Nunes involved in the game, and I think he's a big part of your play, and the way you've been playing quite recently. He's been dangerous, and I think Bournemouth sort of did a number on him, really, and kept him out of the game. And with him being quiet, like you said, Bournemouth were probably good value for it. I still fancied at 1-0 that Liverpool would get something out of the game, to be fair. But like you said, it just didn't come. And will it have a detrimental effect on your Champions League hopes? We don't know. Like I said, it was a massive opportunity to put pressure on the teams above you. Well, the teams like United and Spurs above you, really, because obviously that would have narrowed the gap to 4 points. You would have been above Spurs with them playing this afternoon. So it is a blow, but it's not anything you can't bounce back from. But we'll have to see how it sort of affects you going forward.
I think with the Nunes bit, I actually think that was a direct result of not moving the ball quick enough in the midfield. It looked like it was a pause every time. If you look at the way Liverpool played last Sunday, everything was quick, everything was sharp, and today it just looked like we were slower in there, and it was just like there was a pause. And that might be because instead of having 7 players behind the ball or 8 players behind the ball, Bournemouth had 10. I don't know that might be the difference, but ultimately that's not a surprise. And I don't buy into this early kickoff nonsense either. I'm not having it. At the end of the day, the professionals, they should be ready for that. They should be training at the right time of day to be in the prime moments between 1:45 and whatever it is, 2:30 or 2:45 or whatever it is. They needed to be ready for today, and ultimately they weren't. And they got done over by a team that were prepared, that were ready, rode the luck a little bit, but they need that down there. You know what I mean? And ultimately, to win football games, you need to ride your luck. And they did ride the luck at points, but they deserved it because of the
not enough
that
for me, Obi. I don't think they rode the luck enough for me.
Well,
I thought in large parts they were the better team. Large parts, it was more likely to go 2-0 than one each.
Yeah, I think I'm on about particularly the penalty. That was a massive stroke of luck. They stay up by 2 points or a point or whatever at the end of the season.
They'll look at that moment.
That's the moment. That's the moment where they've basically stayed up, and I think that's a huge moment in Liverpool chasing a top 4. And I think it's a huge moment down at the bottom. And there's so many teams that's affected today. There'll be a lot of teams down at the bottom cursing Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
Because they almost needed Liverpool to get Bournemouth out of the equation. And now it's just pulled everybody back in at the bottom. It's put pressure on teams like Everton, etc.
Forest.
Who just dragged right back into the relegation. And for Liverpool, because ultimately it's about us and what we can do, I think we've just put ourselves as outsiders, rank outsiders again for a Champions League place, just based on that performance. Now, there's a lot of games left and there's a lot of points available, and we could still get there. But based on that performance, we won't. And we need to sort out this away form. If we want to do something next season, we need to find a way of going away to teams where we're struggling to break them down, or we're struggling to cope with moments in the game and dealing with transition in certain periods of game where the crowd's up. You think about, I'm going to list them in games we've lost and withdrawn. Brighton away, Wolves away, Bournemouth away, even Fulham at the start of the season where we drew. We don't look in control of these games at various points, and it's costing us. And ultimately, that's why we're in the position we're in. It's not about our home form, because our home form's
been great.
Yeah, exactly. It's going away to these smaller grounds and these supposed smaller teams, and they've been prepped, they're ready, and they know how to play us. So we need to adapt to that.
That's sort of what I'm saying, Obi. Like, I totally agree with absolutely everything you said, but I think elaborating on that, when I say about the early kickoff and being up for it, I think over the last week, there's been, obviously, you battered Man United, and there was a lot of noise about that game. So I think human nature, there is going to be a little bit of complacency from last week. Do you know what I mean? You've battered United. I bet you probably thought you've gone into that game. It's only Bournemouth. They're struggling at the bottom. Their home form is poor. You pretty much just have to turn up, really. Everyone's riding the crest of a wave. And
never think that. Never think
I know,
that.
but we all thought it. I thought Liverpool would win comfortably. You said 4-0.
I think
you said a couple of goals. We all did. And that's how
we did question consistency, though.
Yeah, we did.
And I said to you, Obi, this sounds mad. So Thursday night, I said, this sounds mad. We've played 5 games, 5 clean sheets, 4 wins and a draw. Am I right to question consistency? And Obi said, well, we've got the momentum. We should be hoping for a positive result. But if anything, we have been consistently awful away from home against teams in the bottom half of the league. That's the 5th time we've played half 12 on a Saturday this season, the 5th. We've lost 4 and drew 1. We haven't won a half 12 game. That's consistently awful.
So they need to look at that. They need to look at that.
That shouldn't be a situation. Ultimately, when you play, should be prepared for the 3, 4, 5 days you've got from the last game, 6, 7, whatever it is, right? And ultimately, they need to be at their prime and ready at that moment. And if they're not, that's down to them, and then down to the manager and down to the club for not getting them in the right place at the right time, in the right mood, feeling the right way. And ultimately, the players have got to take responsibility for today. Because as much as they got praised last week, and deservedly so, because it was a stellar performance last Sunday, that's poor today, and that's unacceptable. And still could have got something out of it, But let's be honest, we probably didn't deserve to, and that's it.
No, we didn't deserve anything. I was thinking about if we go onto the stream and we got it to 1 each, especially with a penalty. I was thinking I'll still go in and be like, we didn't deserve that. We got battered. I said, geez, at half time we got battered. We got for large portions of the game, we got battered. We got run ragged. It was like I say, it's men against boys. And I mentioned after the Man United game, you're only as good as your last performance. And I said to Trav, we love doing a combined 11 of Liverpool, Man U, and Arsenal. My God, I wouldn't want to do one now because I'm not sure any Liverpool player would get into it. And that
just
probably
flipped
brings
on
us
his head.
Yeah, exactly. It was everything that's been awful about Liverpool was back today. Complacency, slow to the ball, lack of desire, lack of ideas, lack of effort, and none more so, Obi, than Mo Salah. I think that penalty was the first time I noticed he was on the pitch.
Yeah.
He was non-existent.
But what I would say is that's him back to. So last weekend he had freedom where he was one-on-one with players, right? You watch, he's back to 3 people marking him because that's how teams on the lower end of the league play against him. And they play against him for a reason because he was smashing it up in the first few games of seasons and seasons and seasons gone by. And teams have gone, we need to double mark him. And now we haven't got enough guile to get the ball away from him or for him to release the ball quick enough to get other people in. Now, that's partially down to him. But we've also got to find a way and find solutions elsewhere in the pitch. I mean, for me, the best opportunity in the first half or the best opportunity to make something was through Robertson and through Van Dijk's headers. You know what I mean? And we had one cleared off the line, which is it was great. And ultimately, I mean, the defender was doing what he should be doing, but it was really good defensive work. And Robertson was getting a lot of space. Now, let's not try and go down Salah's side then. Let's go down Robertson's side more. And we didn't involve Nunez as much as we could have done. And that was a missed opportunity for me. Because ultimately the ball needed to move into Nunez quicker and give Nunez that opportunity to go at a player one-on-one plenty of times. Because we all know what's going to happen in that battle, because he might lose some of them, but physically he'll drive them down. He's got pace to burn, and he's got the physicality to be able to turn them, to be able to flick a ball on and cause a lot of problems. And runners should be in and around him, not in and around Salah, where Salah's really struggling because he's got 3 people on him every single time, you know. And it happens. It happens, and Salah needs to be doing better than this. You know what I mean? Ultimately, he needs to be telling people not to pass the ball to him. Don't demand the ball when you've got 3 players around you. You know what I mean? And nobody should be gravitated towards that side of the pitch. And we should be clever enough to do something different. And I'm sure that's what Klopp's working on. And at points in the game, we'll see that, I'm sure. But ultimately, it's about, if someone's going to treble mark your best player, you just find a goal from somewhere else, because there's clearly a space somewhere else on the pitch.
Use space, Listen, we've got 7 people watching. Thanks for tuning in, guys, even if it's just to see mine and Obi's pain and despair. We've got Oscar Football in the comments. Can't believe Mohamed Salah missed. Me neither, mate. Me neither. Travis, I bet you were watching this today thinking, why wasn't this Mo Salah against Man United last week? Because it was chalk and cheese.
I was there thinking, typical. They raise it against us and then they're throwing this performance. I was fuming. I was like, I didn't think it was going to happen, but as it was unfolding, I was just thinking, this is not the Liverpool I saw last week at Anfield at all. But alluding to what OB was just saying in regards to the creativity, I mean, it's something that I've spoke about in Liverpool's midfield for a number of years, even when you were on fire winning Champions Leagues and stuff, and you had the Genie Wijnaldum and stuff like that. I think those are the games where you sort of miss a Thiago, don't you? In terms of being able to unlock the door from deeper areas. I mean, I know he gets his fair share of critics, Thiago, but that passing range is something that you need in sort of a game like that. And you do miss him when he's injured. You do miss him in certain games. And I think today was a game where you massively missed his creativity in midfield. And I think it's something that needs addressing in the summer. Like I said, I don't want to talk about the summer too much, but when you are buying midfielders, I know you've been linked with the likes of Bellingham, obviously intensely, Caicedo, and you've got the likes of Nunez and stuff like that from Wolves. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking Mason Mount actually might be a particularly good signing for Liverpool. especially if you're trying to change the way you're going to play. If you're going to go sort of like a Gakpo off a striker or play more of a number 10 role next year, Mason Mount actually might fit that bill, to be fair, because it seems like a little bit that you are veering more towards that 4-2-3-1 sort of system. Obviously, Firmino's leaving now, so it's going to be interesting to see who you do recruit in the midfield, because I think you'll get a couple in there. I really do. I do think you will get Bellingham. I think you'll probably get one other. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who that other person is, and I think you'll go more of the Odegaard, more advanced type creative midfielder going forward. Personally,
he tried the 4-2-3-1 in the second half, didn't he? By putting Jota on, Nunes in the centre. But if anything, it was less effective than the 4-3-3 in the first half. But, you know, we haven't really mentioned Bournemouth enough, especially that Utara. He got man of the match. He was lightning fast. What a signing he's been. But Dominic Solanke, OB, he was ragging Virgil van Dijk about. Dominic Solanke, that's not the Dominic Solanke we've seen at Liverpool.
I don't know. I always thought he was decent. I mean, and he was clearly never going to make it for us, and we got good money from him. We've talked about that quite a lot. But I always thought he had a lot of good attributes, and I thought he was always a good player. He does seem to develop, doesn't he? He works hard. He's physical. His movement's really, really good, and he's more of that new type of striker where they're big, strong, powerful, bit of pace about them, and it's all about the movement, and we're seeing a move towards that for a lot of the bigger teams, and he fits that mold, and he works well for them, and he causes a lot of problems just by occupying defenders, and defenders are watching him, which allows players to burst forward from midfield as well. So really, really, really gone up in my estimation. He's a top player, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens over the coming months. I mean, if Bournemouth do go down, it'd be interesting to see what actually happens there, because I think there is a good player in there.
Jefferson Lerma as well. I was just checking Flash Score to see how old he is, but he's a player. Why doesn't he get linked with more clubs in the so-called Big Six? I thought he had another game, but I've noticed him before and thought he's a baller.
Football's becoming such a system game now, isn't it? Like more so than the actual household name and individuals that you've got in your team. And the one attribute that people are scared of is pace, mate. Do you know what I mean? If you've got raw pace in attacking areas, you can cause anyone problems. And I think that's what caused Liverpool problems today. That pacing behind. I think you know how much I love Virgil van Dijk. I think he's one of the best centre-backs to have ever played in this league. But he is slowing up a bit. Do you know what I mean? That little turn over 5 yards where people didn't even try it before. They used to look up at Van Dijk and think, nah, it's just not happening today. They wouldn't even try and knock it by him. And I think now more and more attackers are just sort of fancying themselves against him a little bit. The younger, nippier lads are just like trying it in the sides, in the channels in between centre-back and full-back now, and just testing him really. Today, though, the goal was strange. Like you said, he got himself into a decent enough position. He was more or less side by side, and the guy just knocked it by, and it looked like he just thought, I can't be arsed. There's absolutely no way I'm going to catch him. Do you know what I mean? And then, like you said, the cutback and the finish. But I think it threw everyone off, because I think the Liverpool players looked like they just stopped expecting Virgil to deal with it. And then when he didn't, I think it just caught everybody by surprise. And then from there, it was a decent enough finish. But Alisson had no chance. But I was really surprised with the defending.
Yeah, I suspect that he thought it was offside initially. You know how they did that check afterwards? He was blindsided to where Konate was clearly playing him on. Well, he was playing him on by a bit, wasn't he? And they didn't even put the lines down. And it was clear that it was onside. And I think that's what maybe was in Van Dijk's head, that it was offside, and maybe that affected the way that they managed it through. But that is, once again, concentration and switching off then, isn't it? And it's very unusual. But I do think that Van Dijk seemed to have an indication that he seemed to believe that there was an offside in the build-up, which bothers me, because it's like he's almost not fulfilling the role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there was another one.
Sloppy.
Yeah, sloppy.
There was another one where it was offside, and he was really arsey about it. And he was saying, why didn't he flag that earlier? Because we then had to go through that whole stage of play. So I don't know if he got the arse over that. And I think it was just before the goal as well. if I
Yeah.
remember rightly. And I'm wondering if that impacted him through the actual the play around the goal and what he was thinking and what was going on in his head. Because it looked like his head was gone for 5 or 10 minutes and he just didn't look right. Then he settled again. Second half, he was absolutely fine. He dealt with the pace well. His position was good again, but it was just lapse of concentration we never used to expect or see from Van Dijk. We're starting to see, and that might be a little bit of pace and a little bit of it's physically doing him a little bit more post injury. But that's really, really strange to see and not like him at all.
The thing is that he knew that he'd messed up real bad for the goal. And I actually thought he was good for the next 5 or 10 minutes. He was throwing himself around into challenges, winning everything. You could see it had almost ignited something within him.
Yeah.
But we've spoken about this arrogance he's got in the last year or two, where he's too cool to slide tackle or too cool to challenge. And I think that's been detrimental to his overall game, because when he started throwing himself around for 5-10 minutes, winning everything, I thought, do that for the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
But
it's something.
But on another day, Kanate would have cleared that. He must have been an inch away from it, and it was a quick finish from Billing.
Yeah, and it kind of a weird strike as well. It's just like he needed to get something on it. He didn't really hit it clean.
Yeah, I didn't hit it clean.
He got the right touch on it, and he made sure that it was safe in the way he hit it. Kanate was trying to change direction too quickly and just missed it. And ultimately, it was a well-worked goal, and they done really, really well. And they, like I say, they deserved the goal, and they deserved the win ultimately.
Yeah,
I'm not saying we see football, but we obviously do. Hence why we're students of the game, far from masters of the game. But when we were in the mud, Obi and Trav, who was enjoying us being in the mud, getting beat by Brighton, getting beat by Wolves, I did say I'm actually glad we've got Everton, Newcastle, Man United, because we'll raise our game for them. It'll be a different type of game.
Yeah.
And we performed well in them, got the 3 points, got the wins, scored a lot of goals, the feeling that we're back. And it was almost like we don't need an away to Bournemouth, bottom of the league right now. Yeah. I'd rather be playing away to Spurs or away to Newcastle or away to Arsenal.
It had a real feeling of Forest away as well, didn't it? In the way we played the game.
It was the Forest game that made me say at half-time, we won't get back into this. You said, I think we've got enough to get back in. I thought, I can feel it, something bad here. I don't think we're going to get it back.
Absolutely. And I think the Salah penalty miss took the wind out of our sails again as well. Normally we'd go and go harder and go again and go again. And it was just like, almost like we almost knew it was going to happen, and the fear overtook the, come on, let's do this, which is really frustrating to see. I don't know. I mean, I suppose on the flip side of it, we're having a go at a defence. It's conceded 1 in the last 6 games in the league. You know what I mean? So there is still positives there, but it's just after such a stellar performance last Sunday, just to come in with something like that. It looked a bit drab. We weren't moving the ball very well. We haven't adapted away from home again, and we've been out-muscled at points and played somebody else's game rather than play our own game. And that's really, really difficult.
Who's shouting?
Oh, sorry. No, just carry on. Sorry, bro. Long story, mate.
What can we say? I was really disappointed by Gakpo and Nunes today, but obviously Salah was the most culpable, as we've said. But to go from all 3 of them scoring a brace against Man United to all 3 of them being pretty ineffective today, is that complacency? Is it props to Bournemouth, the way they set up? Or is it just bad luck? Is it just because we're away from home, we're absolute pony?
I think it's a bit of both. Like I said, there was a lot of noise after that 7-0, and rightly so. Do you know what I mean? I think there was a lot of media attention, and obviously the players from both sides, not mentioning Man United, but them, the Liverpool side, there would have been a lot of noise around it. And to be perfectly honest, it may have been a little bit of distraction for the players and the staff and the preparation going into this game. And like you said, it's difficult to manage that with how social media is now. And I think going into that game, I think Liverpool probably just thought they would have had to have turned up and won today. And everybody thought that was going to be the case. And that is said, Bournemouth, you have to give them credit. Today they worked so hard. They stopped Liverpool from playing, nullified everything. And in terms of the front three, they didn't really give them much space to work in, and they found it difficult. Like you said, Salah was getting marked by 3 players. And it was a game where Liverpool had to move the ball quickly to create space, and they just didn't move the ball quick enough at any stage. So yeah, I think there's an element of both sides, them not really being up for the game, a little bit of complacency, a little bit of I like to call it a bit of a hangover from the 7-0 victory in a weird way. Do you know what I mean? Battering Man United, top 4's on, a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, and then just someone's just come up with a pin in the balloon and just gone, do you know what I mean? And it's just like let a load of steam out a little bit. So it's a blow. Whether it affects you getting top 4, like I said, there's still 12 games to go, but we keep saying there's still a lot of games, and then by the time it comes, do you know what I mean? All the games are gone. Do you know what I mean? We're in mid-March.
Yeah, if we keep winning one, losing one,
and a half. Yeah, exactly. Got a month and a half left. Like you said, you're raising it for the big games, but if the smaller games are away from home are an issue, you won't make it, because like Spurs are dropping points and stuff, just the same as yourselves, and we've dropped the odd point and that. We're probably not going to drop too many points from now to the end of the season. So it looks like it's going to be between you and Spurs, and who can probably be the most consistent out of you two. I don't think Newcastle will sustain it. So yeah, it's going to be. Have you still got to play Spurs? Have we played them twice?
I think we've got to play them at Anfield. Is that right, Obi? We beat them 2-1 away.
Yeah. It could all rest on who wins that game, to be honest.
Yeah,
because like you said, both of you away from home aren't really.
I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with us at home. It's the away game. So the next game in the league is Man City away, and given our away form, that'll be interesting though, because they won't.
Yeah, we'll raise it. We'll raise it.
Yeah, they won't treble up on Salah. You know what I mean? So straight away the game's different.
Yeah,
everything's different. Pep does weird things against Liverpool, but he tends to get a result against us at the Etihad, to be honest. And I think it'll be very difficult to see how we're going to win that game. It would take a lot of big performances individually and collectively to get something out of that game. Case of wait and see, really.
We've slated almost every player now except one, Fabinho. I thought Fabinho was back to his worst today.
Oh, he's so slow, wasn't he?
Slow.
He couldn't get his feet sorted, and it was like this is the guy that we were talking about 2 months ago, not the guy that we saw last week who basically bossed the midfield, and it's just so weird to watch. It's just I don't understand. I don't know what it is about him. He looks leggy at points in the game. He looks slow. He looks like he struggles to control it. I don't know whether they dried the pitch or something today, but he looked like he never really had control of the ball. But then, I don't know. It's just odd. It's the same for both teams, and ultimately you've got to get over the line, ain't you?
Trav, do you still want Fabinho at Man United? You're welcome to him.
I'd take him, mate. I don't think you need 3 or 4 midfielders. I really don't. I think you need a couple in there, and I think you'll get a couple. I think, like I was just saying, I think the important thing is what type of midfielder you get alongside who. I think you will get Bellingham. I think he's more or less nailed on with all the reports, but it's who the other one is. You're desperate for some creativity in there. Like, I don't keep alluding back to United, but when we got Eriksen injured, we've missed him in certain games so much in terms of his creativity from deep. And sort of when we played against Betis in the week, I know it was only 1 game, but Ten Hag said he gave Bruno a little bit of a deeper role and he put him back central. And I put a couple of tweets out saying I cannot see this guy wide again because of what he sort of gives you from midfield. And I think you need that central player who's going to make things tick, especially in games like today when there's 2 banks of 4 solid, just wanting to play on the counter-attack for 90% of the game. And don't get me wrong, like I said, Bournemouth did well in parts, but it's just that one player that unlocks the door, that Coutinho type that you used to have, is what I think you're just sort of lacking a little bit going forward. But like you said, a lot of the pieces are there still, don't get me wrong. longer term, but I think top 4 is going to be important for you to get top 4. I think if you don't get top 4, I think it will be a big blow next year in terms of the overall recruitment. But I think you can still do it. There's still time. It's going to be a nip and tuck to the end of the season with Spurs.
I don't want to judge him, and it'd be unfair to OB, but Bajcetic has put a couple of honking performances together now. He got absolutely steamrolled against Real Madrid, which is understandable, Luka Modric. But I thought he got overrun again today, and he looked like a skinny wee boy again today. That's not me criticising him. If I'm relying on a kid who's just turned 18, by the way, so he's basically 17, if I'm relying on him to hold the Liverpool team together from the anchor of midfield, then we're on to a loser anyway. But I'm a little bit worried.
That's not his normal position, though, is it? So he normally plays instead of Fabinho, and he played a little bit further forward. And I think that changes the dynamic of his game. I think he's actually better in a deeper role. He has got a pass in him, and he could do a job further forward. But I think naturally his role is sort of sitting a bit further back. Mate, he's so young. It's harsh. We're probably looking at somebody who's 9 years away from being at his absolute peak. You know what I mean? And it's like you can't judge a lad on that. I think if he continues to develop it, I'm not even that concerned about his performances. I think it'll be experience for him, and it's all part of the learning experience in his development. And he's got to learn in these types of games what he should be doing. And I'm sure Klopp and the coaching team will be spending a lot of time talking to him about what he could have done differently, what he should be doing differently. It's the same with Elliott as well. They're both well away from being at the peak of their powers.
It's like Bajcetic has fell off since that tweet went viral of his turn against Newcastle. Exactly. But then, for an 18-year-old, it could go to your head, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose last week as well, like when he made Fernandes quit, you know what I mean? And he went through that tackle, and that went viral as well. And it's like that. Them moments, he might get a bit of an ego of it. I mean, I don't know the lad. I don't know what he's like personally, but I'm sure that Klopp and the coaching team are having a look in. Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't appear to be that sort of person, though.
No.
And he tends to be quite a quiet, technical player who just knows the position and is able to be strong in the right areas at the right point, despite he's clearly going to grow physically from the point he is at the moment. But I don't put too much into it. I just don't necessarily think Klopp got it right in playing him today, but that's just a personal opinion. We don't know where Hendo was, and whether he's got a bit of a niggly injury or he was struggling after the game last week. We don't know.
I think they said it was a bit of illness. The commentator said it was a bit of illness.
Yeah. So the decision almost kind of made itself, really, and Klopp didn't really have that much of an influence on who he could have put in there instead. So ultimately, it is what it is, and we just need to move on.
Do you two think Klopp made the right changes to impact the game?
Yeah, I do actually. I think I would have had Jota on at half time. I would have maybe gone with Gakpo or Nunes coming off instead of taking Elliott off, because I think it left us a little bit open to the counter with the 4. But it was a change of formation, so ultimately he's gone with what he's gone with. And he's tried to do something different. I mean, ultimately, if Salah puts a penalty in and then we push on and get a winner at the end, we laud it, don't we? You know what I mean? And go, oh my goodness, we've done the game. And it's literally little moments that make a difference.
Fine line,
margins are fine. I think we controlled the game quite well in the second half. Parts were always going to be open to the counter anyway, and it just didn't come off for us what he tried to do. So ultimately, I don't think he could have done a lot else.
No,
it's not going to get much better either. Next up is Real Madrid away from home, which for me, we're already out of the European Cup, but it is what it is. And just a word on Thiago, Trav saying we miss him in that midfield, and we do. He's such a talent, but it's so frustrating, OB, that this is what the 3rd season with us, maybe even the 4th, 3rd, I think. When Thiago's out for 3 weeks, it's 3 months. Yeah. Why is he so brittle that he can't just recover like a normal player?
I don't know.
He hasn't played since the start of February.
Yeah,
and in the middle of March.
I'm wondering if it's something that's ongoing with him, and maybe that was part of the risk, and maybe that's why like Bayern were so willing to allow him to leave as well. You know what I mean? It might be something that's identified. Klopp's decided that because of his technical ability and his ability to develop some of the younger players by being on a training ground with him, it's worth taking a chance. And maybe that's only partially paid off. It's hard to tell.
I'm sure I read a report on The Athletic a number of weeks ago about the Liverpool medical department. I might be wrong, or I might have just seen it somewhere about the injuries that you've had, and like you said, that they're taking a lot longer to come back than they should be. Am I mistaken, or was that true?
No, that was true. We had do we go a period of time without a doctor as well, OB? There's all been question marks about the handling of the management of the club in terms of the medical department. Yeah, by the sounds of things, it's not great.
It's hard to know as well because you don't see it. You don't see all of it, and it's not something that the club necessarily talk about. But there is a lot of noise. There has been bits and bobs going on in the background. Whether that's actually the case or not, I've got no idea.
Yeah.
What I would say is Klopp demands a very high level of fitness, and there's always like comments about he'll just get them to keep doing bleep tests every day this week, and you know what I mean, that sort of thing. I don't think it's actually like that.
Nah.
But you know what I mean. It's difficult to get to the bottom of it. Teams don't release what they're doing in training. They don't talk about the latest science. Don't talk about the physical well-being of the players because they feel like it gives opportunity to the opposition. So it's all conjecture, and it's not something that I think we can really comment on.
The last word, it has to be for Bournemouth. They absolutely battered us. So if anyone watches this far and you're a Bournemouth fan, congratulations. Your team done you proud today. Hopefully you stay up. There's something about Bournemouth. I never wanted them to get relegated. I was a big fan of Eddie Howe. Didn't want them to get relegated. Glad they're back in the Premier League. Hope they stay up as well. They've got a fantastic team there. Again, they've got a bit of the Brighton going on. They've made a few signings, cheap signings in today's market. Their players, they're getting a lot right. And they deserve to get something from the game last week against Arsenal. They got what they deserved this week. No bitterness from me. We got absolutely smashed away from home. The old Liverpool of this season, away from home, back to the worst, is back. And me and Obi are going to go and drown our sorrows, probably have a beer or two and contemplate the rest of the weekend. Travis has got that smile on his face. We're probably going to do a live match reaction to Man United Southampton tomorrow if my two boys are available. So tune in, guys. Obi, thanks for turning up. I knew you would. You have to hold the L just like Trav did last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with you, Scott. Ultimately, we'll always turn up, won't we? You know what I mean? And, that's what being a football fan is. You've got to ride the highs. You ride on the back of the highs, makes you feel buzzing, and ultimately you have to take the lows as well. And it's what it is. It's what it is. We all go through them.
Absolutely. Guys, have a great weekend. We're going to tune in again tomorrow, probably. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll definitely be tuning in tomorrow if Man United drop points, because I'll do the stream on my own. All right, lads. Have a good one.
Nice one, boys.
Header. But Gerrard! Oh, you beauty! What a head, son! What